Megan, if you can do a roll call?
Collins.
Here.
White. Here. Schrader.
Here.
Hinderman. Here. Cole.
Here.
Bowden.
Here.
And Andrews is not present.
Aaron, proof of giving notice?
Yep, notices were posted at both schools and sent to the Village of Dickeyville and Cuba City City Hall, as well as members of the media on Tuesday, December 14th, 2021.
And do you want to talk about consent agenda or we just,
Yeah, anybody want to pull anything out? Oh, did we want to talk about that?
no, I just was asking.
Hearing none.
Then I'll look for a motion.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I will second. Collins.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Schrader.
Yes.
Hinderman. Yes. Cole.
Yes.
Bowden.
Yes.
Motion carried.
On to our administrative reports.
Hello.
Our featured guest is here.
Made it just in time. Sorry about
Yeah,
that.
we will give her the
How are
floor.
the roads?
Not too bad right now, but it's real
coming.
windy out there right now.
So feel free to get going.
All right, I'll jump right into the fun stuff. So I think everybody probably has a hard copy of this document. So I'm just gonna go over kind of the highlights of the audit for 2021. We performed our audit for the year ended June 30th, 2021, issued our independent auditor's report. The audit report, I believe, would have been sent electronically prior to tonight. One thing that's different this year that we had to do that's different than prior years, we've always done the financial statement audit, and we did issue our report on that, which was an unmodified opinion, which is the best that you can get. But something else we had to do this year was called a single audit. So when the district has over $750,000 of federal expenditures, they're required to do this additional like compliance testing for your federal grants. We've always been required to do some state testing per DPI, but this is kind of outside of that for the federal grants because of the increase in child nutrition money and ESSER funds. So the state or the federal government has not released the addendum that we need for that yet. So we have not issued that yet. We're hoping it'll come out sometime this month. But once that's ready, we'll send a draft to Mr. Olson and Heather, have them review it. And if there's anything to pass along, I'm sure they will then at that time. We also do some aid certifications with DPI as part of the contract with us. DPI requires you to have the audit. They require their audited balances to be certified by an independent auditor. So we take care of those reports after all the audited balances are complete. In addition to the financial statements that were sent out, there's also a couple letters in there that are addressed to the board that are meant to be read in conjunction with the audited financial statements. And then the next few pages are some of the highlights from the 6/30/21 year, mostly focusing on the general fund, which does include the special education fund. That page number 2 there shows a summarized balance sheet and income statement. So for the most part, not anything real big between the 2 years. You'll notice there was a net income for 2021, which is always a positive. So if you wanted to see the individual funds, there's a food service fund, special revenue. The breakdown of those are on pages 8 and 45 of the audit report. Next page shows that general fund balance over the last 5 years. And the district does have a policy that states you want that fund balance in the general fund to be at least 20% of next year's budgeted expenses. So that orange line there shows what that benchmark is in your policy. And then the blue line shows that you've exceeded that and been in compliance with your policy the last 5 years. Next page shows the general fund's revenues. Pretty comparable between the years. The breakout between all the revenue sources was very similar to the last couple of years. The biggest sources of revenue for the school district are taxes and state aid, which the biggest portion of that state aid, about a little over $4 million, is equalization aid. DPI, has a calculation that calculates the amount that each district gets based on equalized property values, how much you spend, and your total number of student counts to make sure that there's level playing field for each school district that a student isn't at a disadvantage based on where they live. So they kind of use that to, make all districts kind of comparable, be able to provide the same services. And then the other major source is the tax levy. So on page 5, you can see where the tax levy has been for the last 5 years. So it makes up about 31% of the total revenue for the school district. And the state sets limits, as you know, on how much you can levy, which the district's always been in compliance with. So, and the next page shows the general fund expenditures and, the different types of instructional expenses, and then admin, central, for the most part. I'd say those were also very comparable. And, in a COVID year with a lot of unknowns, you guys were able to really keep expenses in the general fund steady, almost a little bit of a decrease between years, which is great. And that next page shows the debt service. So you can see the breakout between the principal and interest and kind of how that compares to your total non-capital expenditures. The state also sets limits on the amount of debt that you can borrow. The total debt limit is $37.9 million, so well within that range. So plenty of borrowing capacity out there should the district want to borrow anymore. And then that last page is kind of the other matters that we found during the audit. The material weaknesses and significant deficiencies that we know at this time. And I say at this time because those will be part of the single audit report that gets issued later. So right now we do know that we had a finding last year on the preparation of financial statements. We've received updated guidance that says as long as the district has somebody that can review the financial statements and is qualified to review them and approve them, we can get rid of that finding. So that will be removed this year. And then the other one that you've probably heard me talk about for years is that segregation of duties one, where in an ideal world, every step of a transaction cycle would be segregated to different people. I think the district does a good job of segregating all of those. So it really comes down to, for you guys, who has the ability to do it. It might not be the normal procedure, but if one person has the ability to do more than one step, then that risk is out there. So we just note that the board be aware that risk is out there. And then one item I don't have on here that I just kind of finished up the testing on today is there will be something in the single audit report on special ed licenses. There was one individual that applied for a license during the 21 school year, paid for it during 21, but for whatever reason, DPI didn't date it till 7/1 of 21, so the 22 fiscal year. So we are required to note that. But I that'll be worked out with DPI. I could see them. I'm not sure, I guess, for sure how that'll go,
DPI
but
said up to 18 months
to resolve those.
Resolve those things. So if a teacher from another state comes in and they apply for a Wisconsin license, and we know they'll get it, sometimes it takes 12 months to 18 months
to get
DPI to
those.
recognize that.
So we left those wages and benefits in the project where you'll get state special ed aid on. Let DPI know we believe they have a valid license and these should be aidable costs. So we'll disclose that to them, and whenever they kind of get to that, it'll
Maybe they
get
back
resolved.
quicker to you than they did to us.
But otherwise, no material journal entries, no other real recommendations that we came across. That lease standard, that's just more of an FYI that it'll be a new GASB statement that'll be implemented in 21-22, but we'll work with the district to get that implemented. COVID gave us an extra, I think 18 months on that one, which we enjoyed, and we're hoping they delay it more, but I don't think that's going to happen. So we'll work with the district, and that won't change the books or how you guys keep them. That'll be more of a full accrual statement that you see in your audit report, but probably don't use that much on your day-to-day basis. And as always, we received full and complete cooperation from the district. And Heather, Ashley, Aaron, Julie, Pam, Janet came in multiple times to help me with some child nutrition testing that was new this time. Kind of bopped in and out for me, which I really appreciate. Everybody devoting their time and having things ready for us. It makes things go really well on our end. So, any questions? I feel like I kind of rushed through that then. I got flustered with the wind and.
You did a great job. Any questions?
No?
All right, at this time,
All right.
you don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting if you don't.
All right, I'll get back out there then.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
So our next point is curriculum report from Mrs. Holmes.
Hello. So I have an update on, we're focusing on the math curriculum in the elementary school. And our team down there, I'm not going to read all the names, but we have the regular education teachers, we have our 4 special ed teachers, and then our 3 intervention teachers that all work with the math in some component. Our main resource right now for teaching the standards is everyday mathematics, and we've had this ever since I've been here, so it's been used for over a decade, and I think the reason that we keep renewing it and getting it back is because it really focuses on conceptual and discovery learning for the kids. It's a spiraling curriculum, which means we don't just teach a concept once and then we're done with it. It gets taught, but then throughout the year it comes up in the book in other ways, which really helps with retention. And then maybe those kids that didn't master it the first time around get a chance to see it again several times throughout the year so that they can maybe develop a deeper understanding before the grade level is over. We did just update to the newest version of Everyday Math about 3 years ago, so it does match the current math standards very well. And everyone's pretty happy with Everyday Math. I asked our teachers some comments. They like that it spirals. They like that it comes with lots of games to reinforce concepts. And they really liked how thorough it was. So it gives us a really solid foundation to start our lessons from. With any resource that you have, though, like it's never going to be perfect. There's always going to be strengths and weaknesses. And I think one advantage to us having it for so many years is that we really know what the program is strong in and we know its weaknesses. So we're able to really fill those well. So we supplement with lots of different things every day, but these are some of like the main things that are used consistently and through many of the grades. Freckle is a paid subscription, and it actually links with our assessment data. So when the kids take their benchmark test throughout the year, the STAR test, that data gets sent right to Freckle as well. So then when the kids log in to play on Freckle or do Freckle, it has one of the options is for them to work right at their level based on their testing data. As teachers, we have lots of other options in there. We can assign specific standards. We can assign specific fact practice. There's even some like deeper level thinking activities and inquiry-based activities in there. So I use that several times a week in my room. Prodigy and Khan Academy are free things online. Prodigy is like a video game, and the kids really like it. They get characters and work through levels, and they battle out math problems to get through them. Khan Academy is a combination of videos and practice sets so that they can either focus on one skill, a teacher can pull up a video, or they can work through like a whole program on their own. Building fact fluency is a new one this year. One of the weaknesses I think we all feel with Everyday Math is it doesn't focus on having the kids really master their math facts, which is important. It makes all the other math easier. So I had some grant money a couple years ago, and I looked for something that would maybe fill that in other ways than what we had been doing and came across this. So far, we've been using it in 4th grade. We start math class with it every day. The activities take about 10 minutes to start with. I've been impressed with it and enjoy it. The kids seem engaged with it. Carly Redfern is also trying an addition and subtraction one with an intervention group. So it's kind of my hope that if we like it and we see like growth with the kids in it with their facts, that maybe someday we can purchase it for other grade levels throughout the building. And then other things looking ahead for math, we'll be shortly identifying power standards to help us transition to standards-based grading at the elementary building. In 2024, that's our year to research materials, see if we want to keep Everyday Math or is there something else that better fits our needs. And then 2026 will be when we implement whatever we decide to purchase. And then I just wanted to leave you before I go with some food for thought about what some people are referring to as the new math. I think In our district, I haven't seen a bunch of controversy, but on social media, there's lots of debates on how they say it's because of the Common Core standards, and it's really not because of the standards. It's just good teaching practices that are coming back into play to get kids to do what we want them to do. Like, we want them to really think. We want them to have conceptual understanding instead of just memorizing a bunch of procedures, because that just makes it harder. We want them to be problem solvers and feel confident in math. So one of the things that we do to teach multiplication in about 3rd or 4th grade is we introduce the area model, which isn't even the way I was taught, but even as I'm teaching, like, I understand it so much better now. And he does a really good job of explaining like why it's there and how it helps carry the kids, not just like doing multiplication in 4th grade, but how it helps carry them through their whole math career and help them understand other concepts better. It is a longer video, but we're only going to watch about half of it, and he gets most of his points out.
G'day, I'm James. There's currently a lot of internet controversy over the area model. In fact, I'd like to explain what the area model is very briefly and 5 objections to it. Here are my 5 objections. Here's the area model. First, what is the area model? Well, the beginning approach to this is the way to understand multiplication. For example, if I need to do multiplication 37 times 23, the area model says, don't think of this as a arithmetic problem, think of this as a geometry problem. I mean, for example, take a rectangle that is 37 inches long and 23 inches high and ask, what's the area of that rectangle? Well, to compute the area of that rectangle, I need to work out 37 times 23. Okay, so it actually is the same problem. Now, of course, no one likes the numbers 37 and 23. In fact, let's avoid hard work. Let's make the 37 friendly. And my brain suddenly says right now, okay, let's think of this as 30 inches and 7 inches, something like that. Oh, sorry, my picture's not drawn to scale, but that's okay. And let's make the 23 much simpler. 23 is awkward. Let's make it, I know, obviously in my brain right now it's 20 and 3 inches. Again, not drawn to scale, but the idea is there. All right, so I want to work at the area of this rectangle. Now I just work at the area of each of the individual pieces. And I've now made my multiplication problems much simpler. 30 times 20 would be 600. 7 times 20 is 140. 3 times 30 is 90, and 3 times 7 is 21. So the area of this rectangle must be the sum of these pieces. What's 600 plus 140, that makes 740, plus 90 makes 830, plus 21 makes 851. This must be 851. Beautiful. That's the area model. All right, so what are the objections? Well, I said it earlier on, they're my objections, but they're actually not. These are the objections I'm seeing on the comments when people are looking at videos on the area model. That the issues of speed, this is impractical, this is useless, why fix something that's not broken, and this is just new math. All right, so let me go through each of these and think about what are the issues here? Speed. All right, so if the issue is speed, that I need to work this out with speed in my life, then think about where we are in this day and age. We're in the 21st century. If I actually need to know what 37 times 23 is on the spot in everyday life, I would do this as a smart thinking adult. Pull out my smartphone. So speed to getting answers to the issue, this is the correct 21st century approach. Which then begs the question, what do we need to teach our students? Now, of course, you're going to balk at the idea of using calculators and smartphones. Fine, so we want to teach the kids arithmetic. I get that. But it can't be for speed then. Smartphones are the way we actually deal with this in everyday life. So you might say, okay, drawing rectangles takes too long. All right, fair enough. But of course you're not going to draw rectangles every single time. We're not asking students to always draw rectangles. The fact is, I've got this in my head. I can almost see in my head now what 37 times 23 is going to be by thinking of a rectangle. Just imagine a rectangle. 30 and 7, 20 and 3, and I can see all those pieces. I get a 600 piece, I get a 21 piece, I get a 90 piece, I get a 140. I can actually do it in my head. So if speed's the issue, having that imagery in my brain actually helps me get the answer quickly. All right, speed, I would argue, is not actually the concern here. Now, impractical, that's a good question. So is this impractical? Well, the question is what your goal is here. Now, I've taught a way to do a multiplication problem, which actually has ramifications all the way through the K through 12 curriculum. We forget that our students, our youngsters, are actually going through a whole storyline of math. They might be in grade 4 now, but they're going to go to middle school, they're going to go to high school. Math keeps going. And actually, this is very practical for the upper level grades. For example, in middle school, students at some point are going to have to do things with mixed numbers, like multiply 4.5 times 5 1/3. It's very, very tempting to say the answer must be 4 times 5 is 20, and half times 1/3 is a 6, so it must be 20 and a 1/6. But if you have this imagery in your mind, you'll see right away, working with these mixed numbers is not quite right. 4.5, yes, here's 4, here's half. 5 1/3, here's 5 1/3. I do indeed get 20 from the 4 times 5. I can see that in my brain. I do indeed get a 6. A half times a third is 1/6. But I can see that my computation is wrong. I'm missing extra pieces. So actually having the imagery in your mind can help with more complicated arithmetic. So the goal here is not to just answer integer multiplication problems, to give a structure that goes beyond. In fact, in high school, it gets even worse. You do algebra. Whoops, make my board messy. Messy board and smudgy hand. A very common student mistake in algebra class for high school is to say that a quantity squared, a plus b squared, is a squared plus b squared. That seems very, very tempting to say. I get that. However, we even say a geometry word. We just said the word square. Let's draw a square. Here it is. It's going to be a plus b inches by a plus b inches, okay? A plus b inches by a plus b inches. And yes, I do see I get an a times a piece, a squared. I do see I get a b times b piece, a b squared, but I see I'm missing another a times b and a times b. Actually, this facilitates high school algebra. Plus 2ab is the correct answer. I can see it in my picture. So building up this area model for youngsters, the goal is not so much working out the computations, 37 times 23. That's not the goal. To actually give a structure for the mathematics that comes beyond and the whole storyline, and help with arithmetic along the way. Impractical.
Okay, we're going to stop him there. He does go on through the other ones, but the main point I wanted to show was covered. Just wanted to thank you very much for your time. And does anybody have any questions? Don't want to leave you hanging if you do.
I have a comment to add. Since I'm at the other end of the spectrum, this year I had the wonderful opportunity for my physics students. My physics students started being really creative solving their problems, and I have students that are solving the same problem 3 different ways, and then they have mathematical discussions on whether each way is feasible. And that has never happened before, but if you look at the scope and sequence, the students that started with that math are now to me, and they're approaching problem solving in completely different ways that they're very comfortable with. They're very comfortable talking about different ways to do problems because of the thinking that's being implemented in their minds and practiced.
Thank you. That's cool to hear because I haven't even taught this way the whole time I've been teaching. It's maybe been the past 5 years or so that we've really focused on that. So, well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
very much.
That video was very well done. Special Education Director report. Deb.
On November 23rd, Mrs. Austin's class prepared and provided a Thanksgiving feast. 6 students, 3 middle school students and 3 high school students, created a Thanksgiving menu, created a shopping list on a budget, made out invitations, then went shopping for the best deals. The students baked homemade caramel chocolate brownies. They could have used your help, Chuck. Roasted 2 hams, made mashed potatoes, gravy, and green beans, put together a salad, set up tables, chairs, and centerpieces, and served beverages to the people who attended. The students served about 30 people, then cleaned up the classroom after the celebration. And I would like to thank Melanie Austin, Amy McAuliffe, Kathy Kaiser, and Dee Burbach for all of the hard work that they do to provide that opportunity for the students. I'm sure it was wonderful. I missed it this year, so I was very sad about that. The special ed department has been very busy with evaluations, annual IEPs, co-teaching and planning. And I just want to express my appreciation for all the hard work that our staff are doing, putting the hours they're putting in and the effort they're putting in to meet the needs of all of our students with IEPs. And lastly, the Individuals with Disabilities Act, or IDEA, requires the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction to determine annually if each LEA, local education agency, in Wisconsin meets the requirements for IDEA Part B, and that's attached to funding. So this report looks at things like graduation and dropout information, state assessment participation and proficiency, educational environments, how much students are learning in the regular ed environment versus the special ed classroom, timely evaluations and data reporting. And we received our notification and were found to meet the requirements. So this report is helpful for us because it gives us a lot of indicators and information to help us drill in and see, you know, what types of things we can work on to close those gaps educationally for students with IEPs. And that's all I have.
Any questions for Deb? Thank you. Move on to Dr. Kelly.
So first, I'd like to congratulate our middle school Lego club, who for the first time in history is advancing to the state sectionals in Milwaukee this weekend. So they're very excited about that. And we received word that Miss Demmer was nominated for the first Lego League Coaches Award this year. So that is pretty exciting. On December 8th, we had 24 NHS students work our local blood drive here in Cuba City. They had 43 donors. 23 of them were high school students and 21 of those were first-time students donating blood. So they had great numbers. The Red Cross was very impressed with the maturity and the politeness of our students and appreciated the help. Our FCCLA was awarded a $250 chapter grant from the FCCLA Foundation for a project that they're working on in January. It's called Around the World in 80 Plates. And that's where the high school students are going to be able to taste and learn about food from other countries. So we're pretty excited about that. And then our music department, of course, has been busy. They had a couple of concerts over the last couple of weeks, both band and choir. So we want to thank Mr. Clayton and Mrs. Clayton for a job well done, and of course to our students who gave a great performance. And then finally, I just want to give a shout out. We have 12 high school students who have become mentors for elementary age students this year. They just started a couple weeks ago. Mr. Kraus had started this at the elementary school and asked if we could help out with that. And so far it's been growing great. So I want to thank those students for stepping up and doing their part with our kids. Thank you. We also have a robotics club happening and they were going to stop in. So I think I'll step out and see if they're ready. They wanted to kind of show off some of their work. If that's okay, I'll just go see what they are.
They did, yeah. So that's the seniors now actually in 8th grade went to regionals and then
Sure.
sectionals and made it to state.
Awesome. So hopefully they repeat that this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions for Dr. Kraus before she votes? No Heather, so you're gonna handle that, Aaron, or we did that?
No,
with the
she's
audit?
got that linked, so if you want to take a look at that.
Okay.
Some updates, but we figured since the auditors were coming that we could just link that.
All right, and so superintendent and elementary school.
Yep, elementary school, we've got the Edmentum option. This is actually for K-12. We'll go out to all families tomorrow. Anybody who is interested in doing virtual learning, we've actually heard from several parents who will be bringing their kids back after winter break. But we do send that out there because we said we would do that and offer Edmentum for everybody. K-12, that will go out tomorrow. Got our music concert tomorrow, K-2, which is always fun and interesting. We've got our staff, as Mrs. Holmes was stating, is working on standard-based grading with CISA and their teams. And standard-based grading, in short, you get rid of A, B, C, D, and F. And I don't think you guys have even gotten to what those 4 things would be. Traditionally, it might be advanced, proficient, emerging, and not yet, or something like that. So with those standards, they're graded on more than just like math. So it won't say math B. It might break math into 5 different categories, and then you're going to see one of those standard language or labels for each one of those. Really, at the elementary school, especially elementary school, is the report cards are really feedback to parents on how the kids are doing with the things that we're supposed to be teaching them. And many elementary schools have moved to standard-based grading because it's better feedback for parents. So just an update on what they're doing there. Regarding the district level, sent out the matrix and the explanation from our meeting last Wednesday. Changes with masks will begin on January 3rd at the middle school, high school, 18th. All the other things that were represented in the matrix started immediately. We we were able to keep more kids in school this week because of that. So thank you for making those changes. When we were, made the motion, we had the date built in for the masks, but not the other things. And afterwards, I just said, I assumed that would start right away, and checked with a few people. Like, that's how we thought it when we were motioning and voting for it too. So just wanted to clarify that. But that's everything for elementary school superintendent report. Thank you.
Welcome, Gary.
Continue.
Let's see some
Well,
robots.
Yeah, we'll go to our guests.
This will be the public recognition portion. You can bring it up right up in front if you want to.
Clearly wants to.
Yes, you do. On the floor is probably the best place for me to do it. We can move some chairs if you need to move them.
Okay, so we're the QC Robotics team, and we have a challenge this year of building a robot to transfer blocks and wiffle balls to a wobble. And this is our wobble. And it swivels around. And we roughly have 2 minutes to get as many blocks and balls onto this. And every tier has a different point value. And we all come together into a big square. It's 60 by 60, and there's 4 other robots that we have to work together as a team to put as many blocks and balls onto a wobble.
So there's a lot of different parts to this team. So we have like the building team, the people that like get together and like plan on like how the robot's going to look and like where everything's going to go. And then we have the programming team, which basically like uses code to like make the robot like move with all of its moving parts, like these wheels on the bottom, this motor over here, and this motor over here, and this little pincher, all have to be programmed in different ways in order for everything to move smoothly with the controllers that we're given. And then we have the business team, which is able to basically manage our budget and kind of like keep track of like what we're doing through the season so that we're able to like present it to a board of judges and just prove that like we're learning something as we're doing this.
Documenting growth overall of where we started and where we finished, which is here. And then I see Dida going around taking pictures because she's also in charge of all our social media. So
Yeah, so that's probably our biggest form of outreach. It's just kind of like letting people in the community know like what we're doing and kind of like what we're learning in this, because not a lot of people know about this program, which I really feel like they should, since this is really one of those like extracurricular activities that like you can take after high school and like you can make a career out of it pretty much.
We're all dying to see it work.
Well, right now we're having a couple kinks, so it does not move tonight.
Okay.
But
sad because it moved on Mondays.
It was
It did.
working really well on Monday.
and
We've all been there.
yeah, that's probably the biggest part of this, is that like it's like every time we're like so close to finishing it, we run into another problem, and that's just kind of like the whole process is just trial and error. And whenever like we have a problem, like we have to figure out how to fix it. So yeah.
And when is your first competition that you have to have this all solved by?
Sunday.
So you put in an awful lot of hours? Or
Yeah.
can you
Yes.
Give us a
Yep.
description
Right now
of
we're
the time
putting-
invested here by your team?
2 hours of practice, 1 to 2 practices a week. So
Yeah,
since-
usually at the beginning of the school year, it's kind of slow. Like we just kind of get together, like figure out what our team is, like what our objective for is the year. And then kind of come like November, December is when we really start to hit it hard. And that's where we basically gotten all of our progress by having extra practices on the side and just like doing stuff outside of practice in order for everything to be like done and ready for when we need to meet those deadlines.
Mainly because at the very beginning of the year, not all the information is out yet. We don't know all the rules. We don't know all the setup of our challenge. So by the time November, maybe like the last week of October rolls around, that's when we get all the information readily available to us, and we know all of what exactly our robot needs to be able to do.
We're also working on new challenges for robot, like more advanced techniques from past years. For example, this year we're using a camera to detect where objects are for the autonomous part, and we use that to gain points, trying to make our robot more efficient, I'd say.
Yeah, because autonomous is essentially like a 30-second period at the beginning of it where we can't touch anything. We just press the play button and the robot has to move on its own. For the next 2 minutes, we have 2 sets of controllers with 2 drivers controlling each, which is able to kind of maneuver as we need. But the biggest part of that autonomous is that we like have 4 different spots that we could be at the beginning. So we have to prepare for all of those situations pretty much. So that's probably one of the biggest parts of our robot is getting all that down.
Mm-hmm. With 4 different random starting positions and 3 different random configurations per position, that's 12 different possibilities of what our robot could be looking at. And since we don't know, we have to plan, or in Charlie's case and the rest of the programming team's case, figure out a way for us, that's the camera, to kind of skip a few steps and combine those different configurations that we could have and just like focus on other things with that.
So what was it like as far as the dynamics of who did what, or how you figured out your team function? I know you mentioned all the different groups and
Yeah. I feel like we just kind of like naturally fall into like the positions that like we work on. Like some people are more interested in like building the robot itself, and some other people are interested in just programming the robot. So like we kind of do that at our own discretion, but we like to cross over as needed. Say like a programmer like needs something on the robot, they can go and like put that on the robot themselves. And if the business team is like working on like putting everything together like in our notebook, which shows how our robot is being built, they also have to be involved with like the building of the robot in order to know like how the robot functions.
In saying that, when we say a group of builders, that also has many subgroups. Like me, I specialize in drawing everything up in CAD or Inventor, and that's where you basically get your whole robot onto a computer screen.
Yeah, it's like a 3D model that like you can like look around and like see every part of the robot without actually having it like in person. And you also 3D printed a T-piece, which we don't have right now because we decided to kind of customize it so that we're able to like show like how our like team like stands out from other people. Because like that's the thing about the team piece is that like it's our own thing that we can make into like anything that we want, and just kind of like it's something that we can use and like we can use to our advantage instead of just the blocks, just the balls, or just the ducks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I appreciate your time, and I think that you guys have some stuff to get working on, make sure. Thank you guys. This was wonderful
Awesome.
to hear that.
Thank you.
Coaches, thank you, and
Thanks.
best wishes moving forward.
Good luck.
All right, now new business. Approve the additional 22-23 course options for the high school. Yep, this is something that we do every December. It's for the next school year. And teachers generally will say, these are some classes I'm interested in teaching. And again, unless there's enough interest, they don't run. But if they've already been approved by Dr. Kraus, if approved by you, they get in the catalog for next year for students to look at.
Are there any questions? Would someone move?
I'll move to approve the additional 2022-23 course options for CCHS as presented.
Second.
Collins.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Schrader.
Yes.
Hinderman, yes. Pohl.
Yes.
Bowden.
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Item B, approve resolution 2122 for the FEMA grant application.
Yep, this is a requested document from Jordan Buss, who's writing that FEMA grant for us that we've already consulted and hired. He's just asked this. This is just one of the next steps and something that we need board approval on. It's not something I can just grant. I recommend that we approve it.
All right. Thanks to Dan for catching the clerical error there. So if there's no discussion, would someone move?
I'll move to approve the resolution 2021-22 for FEMA grant application as presented.
Is there a second?
Collins.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Schrader.
Yes.
Hinderman, yes. Pohl.
Yes.
Bowden.
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carried.
And then personnel, A, approve the hiring of Miss Ellie Glennenan as 7th grade girls basketball coach.
I still call her Ellie Jones, just so you know who we're talking about, but that is her married name. She's coached for us in the past, and she's interested in coming back, and we're glad to have her. So I recommend we approve this.
I will move to approve the hiring of Miss Ellie as the middle school girls basketball coach as presented. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'm gonna give it to Sarah. Sorry, Don. Collins.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Schrader.
Yes.
Hinderman, yes. Pohl.
Yes.
Bowden.
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Item B, approve the hiring of Miss Madison Feenan as the 7th and 8th grade math intern.
Yep, these were already approved back in July or August. We couldn't find them. There weren't any applicants for the middle school internships in the first semester. We were able to find all 3 interns that we approved back in July or August. So these are the 3 that we picked from UW-Platteville. And Dr. Kraus and I feel like we got pretty lucky with all 3 of them. So Madison is just the first.
All right, is there a motion?
I'll move to approve the hiring of Ms. Madison Fan as 7th, 8th grade math intern as presented.
Is there a second?
I will second. Collins.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Schrader.
Yes.
Hinderman, yes. Pohl.
Yes.
Bowden.
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Item C, approve the hiring of Miss Alexandria McLennan as the 7th, 8th grade ELA intern.
Yep. And with both of our middle school interns, they're going to be primarily Madison will be primarily with Chris, but we do try to give them some other experience other than just 7th grade math or 8th grade math. So the same thing with our ELA intern. She might have 2 sections of ELA and she might have 1 section of science or social studies, just to try to make sure that they get that well-rounded experience as well.
If there's no questions, would someone move?
I'll move to approve the hiring of Miss Alexandria McClelland as presented.
I'll second.
Collins.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Schrader.
Yes.
Hinderman, yes. Pohl.
Yes.
Bowden.
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Approve the hiring of Miss Madeline Nix as the 4th grade intern.
Yep, and this is the 4th grade intern with Miss Brewer, and that allows Miss Brewer to work with all of our students who are on Edmentum and make sure that they get the individual tutoring and weekly check-ins with her, all of our students. That's K-12. So this intern provides her that time to do that.
If there's no questions, would someone move?
I'll move to approve the hiring of Mrs. Madeline Nix as a 4th grade intern as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Collins.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Schrader.
Yes.
Hinderman, yes. Pohl.
Yes.
Bowden.
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Approve Tony Kettler as the volunteer high school POMS assistant coach.
Tony started coming to help with the POMS assistant coach, or before it was a position. She just started to come and it was doing a wonderful job. And the coaches just said, we'd like to have her there more often. And I said, well, we have to make sure we take everything to the board. So I strongly recommend that we approve this since she's interested in it and doing a great job already.
Would someone move?
I'll move to approve the hiring of Ms. Tony Kettler as ECHS assistant coach.
Is there a second?
I will second. Collins.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Schrader.
Yes.
Hinderman, yes. Pohl.
Yes.
Bowden.
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Budget and finance, any news
none.
there?
No.
Building and grounds?
We're going to have one either in later January or February. There's a couple things that Ben wanted on there. So
Communication review and strategic planning.
No upcoming meeting scheduled for those because that's really our special meetings with that we're meeting. So all of us are really on that right now.
Curriculum instruction and assessment.
Not till the summer.
Not till summer. Personnel, the next meeting will be January 12th. We're meeting, I think, at 5:30 and 6:30 separately with the support and certified staff. Policy.
Probably
says spring. Technology and transportation, nothing,
We've
right?
got nothing scheduled, but we need to look,
Probably.
when is the busing contract gonna come to a head and,
I'm
When
going
do
to be
we
working
start doing?
with John at Southwestern here probably in January and February to get some initial things. I think as soon as we get that, we'll probably call a meeting with our committee.
okay, when does the contract end?
Uh,
After
we,
we extend
it's
it?
June of 23
Because we extended it 2 years to meet.
to match Southwestern.
Master Southwestern. Foundation doesn't look like you'll meet again till
January,
January.
yep. George will set up a time that.
Okay. CISA 3, I don't really have anything. And thank you, Dan, for filling in so I could go to the St. Rose Christmas program.
No problem.
And thank you, board, administration, all the staff for everything you've done for getting us to Christmas here. So, somebody want to move adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
I will second.